So I welcome you to this session in which I will be discussing the wind analysis of building structures, and actually I will be focusing on wind tunnel test to determine the structural wind loads for wind analysis against strong winds and other wind hazards. So these are my contents. I'll be actually starting with what are different options available for wind analysis for building structures, and I'll be focusing mainly on this ASC 7-16. Then I'll be directly going to the wind tunnel procedure, and then at the end I'll have some demonstration about if we have some wind tunnel test results, how can we use them to analyze our building if we are using ETABS for this purpose. So I'll be focusing on dynamic analysis against wind if we have the wind tunnel test results. So let's start our first topic, which is the wind analysis of buildings, the basic introduction. And I'll skip all the static analysis procedures and directly go to wind tunnel test, because this session is about wind tunnel testing procedure and what are some results which we can obtain from that. So if we look at ASC 7-16, the chapter 26 actually talks about the wind loads general requirements. Primarily, it provides three methods for wind analysis of building structures. Two are static analysis procedures, and one is the wind tunnel procedure, which may include dynamic analysis also. So, chapter 26 starts with basically setting the general requirements for wind loading, how you obtain the equivalent static wind loading for wind analysis. The basic parameters will be coming from chapter 26. Then 27 and 28 actually propose two different equivalent static wind procedures. One is called the directional procedure for the wind design of main wind force resisting system, and second is called the envelope procedure. There is a slight difference in these two procedures actually. These procedures differ in how the external wind pressure coefficients are calculated actually. So I'll not go into detail of these two static procedures actually, because this is a topic for some other session. In this session, I'll be focusing on wind tunnel procedure, this one, chapter 31, and actually I'll be skipping all that detail and directly discuss wind tunnel procedure here. So if we have an overview of how these chapters are connected actually, it is that the chapter 26 start with general requirements. It defines the basic wind speed, the directionality factor, exposure categories, then topographic factor, gust factor, and enclosure classification, whether the building is open or enclosed, and then how we can determine the internal pressure coefficient. So all of these basic parameters, they are used in all the other procedures which are described next in ASC 7-16. So actually our equivalent static wind forces are the function of all of those input parameters. The most important one is the basic wind speed. So once you have all those basic parameters, then you have an option for directional procedure or envelope procedure, and then you have another chapter for directional procedure for building overhangs and parapets, for example. And then finally we have chapter 31. All these are related to the main wind force resisting system, MWFRS. And if we want to design components and cladding, C and C, we will be dealing with chapter 30 first, because it will be describing both envelope and directional procedures for components and cladding. And then finally we will be going to wind tunnel procedure. So if we just talk about main wind force resisting system, we have actually three options. One is the equivalent static directional procedure, then equivalent static envelope procedure, and then we have the wind tunnel procedure, where we can have the actual uh, description of actual loading actually. It can be in static form also, and it can be in dynamic form also. So if we want to perform the detailed rigorous dynamic analysis for wind loading, we should go for this chapter 31, which means the wind tunnel testing procedure we should adopt. So the difference between directional and envelope procedure is, as I have explained earlier, that uh, the the external pressure coefficients are derived in different manner in these two procedures. In directional procedure, these external pressure coefficients are derived based on past wind tunnel testing of prototypical building models for the corresponding direction of wind. So in one particular test, one particular direction of wind was considered, and finally based on extensive wind tunnel testing, but all that testing was directional testing, and in that testing the external pressure coefficients were derived and then they are specified to develop the directional procedure to determine equivalent static wind forces. But in the envelope procedure, the although the external pressure coefficients are derived from wind tunnel testing, but they are derived in slightly different manner, and that is that the prototypical building models were successively rotated around 360 degrees such that the pseudo pressure cases produce key structural responses which envelop the maximum values among all possible wind directions. So the building model, which was actually used for wind tunnel testing to derive the pressure coefficients, that model was rotated actually for all 360 degrees, and the envelope values are recommended to develop the envelope procedure, equivalent static envelope procedure. So in this manner, both of these procedures are different, although they are based on detailed experimental wind tunnel testing, but they are different because the the experimental approach used in deriving those external wind pressure coefficients was different. An alternative to that we have the wind tunnel procedure. It is a procedure for determining wind loads on buildings and other structures in which pressure or forces or moments are determined for each wind direction considered from a model of the building or other structure and its surroundings. So as the name indicates that we construct a reduced scale model of our building and we subject it to a loading scenario in wind tunnel and determine the realistic characterization of actual wind loading. So chapter 31 may always be used for determining wind pressure, which means the wind tunnel procedure may always be used for the determination of wind pressure for the main wind force resisting system as well as for components and cladding. And this method is considered to produce the most accurate wind pressure of any method specified in this standard. So which means that you can always go for the detailed option. Although you have, if I go back, you can see that I have this directional procedure in 27 and then envelope procedure in 28. But I can always go to chapter 31 directly, although the directional and envelope procedures are derived based on wind tunnel testing, but still for very complex structures, high-rise buildings, you can always go to directly wind tunnel procedure, and then the actual shape of the building, actual geometry, the wind phenomena associated with that shape will always be accounted if you go for that wind tunnel testing. Although the conventional procedures 27 and 28, they are supposed to cover most of the cases, but they may not cover all cases, and for some special structures and some high-rise buildings you can directly go to wind tunnel testing procedure, which is considered the most accurate of all. So chapter 27 talks about the directional procedure, and it has two parts. First talks about the enclosed and partially enclosed and open buildings of all heights, and then the part 2 is actually enclosed simple diaphragm buildings. So this part prescribes a simplified approach for main wind force resisting system. Then envelope procedure chapter 28 also has two parts. The first part is low-rise buildings which are enclosed and partially enclosed, and the second part is enclosed simple diaphragm low-rise buildings. So mostly the conventional building code applications, they are for low-rise buildings, they are for regular shape buildings, and mostly the the response which is covered in conventional building codes is a long wind response, and we know now that the actual wind dynamics, if we take into account, the response in across wind direction also can be significant in some cases. So that is considered implicitly in most of the building code approaches.